Stop running down the meh and mundane hallways of life and tap into the magical. My name is Michelle Shutter. I am a life and leadership coach for women and host of the Life Coaching Classroom podcast. I'd like to welcome you to Life Coaching Classroom, where we walk with you in the hallways of life so you can align to the beautiful expansiveness of your true self through reconnection, reinvention, and rejuvenation. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to class. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode on the Life Coaching Classroom podcast. My name is Michelle Shutter, and this week, episode 55 is called Rise Above Your Story. Ooh, let's get ready for this one. If you are new to this podcast, welcome. I am so excited that you are here. And if you are a returning listener, thank you again for carving time out of your day to listen. Regardless of how you got here, I am just excited that you made the decision to invest in yourself. As I mentioned, my name is Michelle Shutter. I am the host of this podcast and the creator of Life Coaching Classroom, where we stop running down the halls of the meh and the mundane, the mediocrity of life, and we tap into the magical. We move into that magical space. And people have asked me, like, what do you mean by magical, right? It is that beautifully aligned space where you connect with your true self, where you start to pull back all those layers and you get back to being yourself. Let's face it, over time, there's a lot of things that come at us and we become disconnected from that true self, the essence of who we are. So in the Life Coaching Classroom, we bring that all back. And you might think, like, how do you do that? Like, how do you get there, right? Well, to put it as simply as I can, it's really breaking down the BS barriers, the bogus story barriers, and breaking through to living your true story. It's as simple as that. We have to break down that garbage to get back to being ourselves, to break through. And the Rise Above Your Story, what I titled this episode, is actually the topic of our 3-day unit study coming up. It is coming up starting next week, and I'm going to give you a little bit more details about it at the end. However, if you just can't wait and you want to check it out right now, hit pause on this podcast or on this video and go to lifecoachingclassroom.com/unit, where you can register for this 3-day unit study. So as I was prepping for this unit study, I was really reflecting on day 2. And day 2 is going to be all about the main character in your story. And you might think, like, right off the bat, like, well, that's me, right? Like, I'm the main character. I'm the main character of my story. And I'm here to tell you, it's not you. It is not you, because if you were the main character of the story, you would not be in a space where you would be holding yourself back in any way. And the main character of this story is really a character that likes to run the show. You may not even be aware that this character exists in your story. However, I know that you have experienced this character in some way, shape, or form. And you might be asking, well, like, what do you mean? Like, how do I know if I've experienced it? Well, I'm going to ask you 3 different questions. And if you answer yes to any of these questions, it is absolutely certain that you have experienced this main character. So, not sure if you've experienced the main character? Here we go. Question number 1. Have you ever had to engage in courage? In your life, have you ever had to engage in courage? If you answered yes, you've experienced this main character. Question number 2. Have you ever wanted to change something physically about you? Maybe you wanted to release some weight. Maybe you wanted more defined abs. Maybe you've wanted to start a fitness program or eat healthier. If you answered yes to that, you've experienced the main character. Question number 3. Have you ever wanted to pursue the pull on your heart to do something different in your career, in your business, in a relationship? Have you ever wanted to pursue the pull on your heart to do something different, essentially, in your life? If you answered yes to that question, you've experienced the main character. Now, you may have gotten one yes, you may have gotten three yeses. Regardless, you've experienced the main character. Now, you might be saying, well, what is the main character, right? Well, I'm not actually going to share what the main character is on this podcast. You're going to have to register for the upcoming unit study to really get a handle on that. But here's what I want to tell you. This main character is not the only character that shows up in your story. There are actually 7 characters that show up in your story, and they're neither good nor bad. The question is, which character are you hopping into at any given moment in your story? Now, this main character, and I like to say this main character is actually like the second in line, essentially. But this main character is very powerful. This main character is very strong. This main character is probably the most defined because it likes to consume the space between where you are and where you want to go. And it does it in a way that almost like flips you around like in a what is that, a pinball game, right? Like it flips you here, it flips you there. And if you're not aware of it, it can be all consuming and it really like sucks so much energy out of you. And then it leaves so much potential energy on the table that has gone unnoticed. Now, when I said, which character are you hopping into at any given moment? Well, you can't necessarily know that if you don't have the awareness around it. And that is so important when we want to rise above our story. We have to have this awareness of how these characters are showing up in our life. And on day 2 of this unit study, we are going to dive into this main character, this character that gets in the way, that really creates essentially bogus story barriers for us, and we don't even realize it at times. We allow it to take our own self right out of the game. And so what I want to ask you is, if the main character that I'm sharing with you, even though I'm not telling you who it is it's the most defined because it's, like I said, it consumes that space between where you are and where you want to be. How are you going to get to that end result without knowing who the main character is? Without moving through some of this bogus story? Isn't it time for you to rise above your story? It is. I'm here to tell you, yes, it is. It is time for you to rise above your story. And how are you going to do that? You're going to register for the unit study so that we can work together on moving through this main character and allowing the other characters to have a more beautiful presence for us in a way that serves us, in a way that allows us to live our true story. Remember when I said at the beginning, when people said, like, how do you get there, right? You have to break down the bogus story barriers, the BS, so that you can break through to living your true story. That is you. You are deserving of that true story, and it is there waiting for you. What I want you to do today is to go to lifecoachingclassroom.com/unit and register for Rise Above Your Story. We start December 19th. You can attend live or you can catch the recordings, but either way, you have to register. How did this land with you today? It's a short podcast, but it's impactful. Are you going to continue to move into 2023 having this main character really mess up your story? really keep you from living your true story. Really consuming that space between where you are and where you want to go. And when it consumes that space, it creates the bogus story barriers. It blocks you from what you truly desire and what you truly deserve. Are you willing to do that in 2023? Or do you want to start shifting it now and rise above your story? That's what I thought. Go to lifecoachingclassroom.com/unit and register for that unit study today. Let me know what landed for you. You can always email me at hello@lifecoachingclassroom.com. Have an amazing day. Be an amazing you, and I will see you in class. Have you joined our monthly unit study? If not, you better head on over and reserve your seat at lifecoachingclassroom.com/unit. The unit study gives you an opportunity to experience life coaching at no charge. Again, register and get all the details at lifecoachingclassroom.com/unit. I do have a favor. Could you take a moment to share this podcast and Life Coaching Classroom with your besties? Perhaps they too are tired of running down the meh and mundane hallways of life. Let's give them a little spark in their day. Finally, I'd be so grateful if you take a minute to review the podcast. The reviews definitely help to spread the podcast to more women. Thank you. I so appreciate you, and I will see you in class.